Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 74th episode of Visioncon Live, your go-to nerdy talk show. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. You can come here to see me today. You came to meet the man of the hour. He's Kid Flash from Young Justice, Skizzo from Days Gone, Silco from Arcane, just to name a few. From optimistic and cheerful heroes to foreboding villains, he's done it all. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the one, the only, Jason Spisak. Jason, how are we doing today?
I'm good, man. It's funny, we left the Joker off my poster, and I feel kind of weird about that because I love playing the Joker, and a lot of people don't associate me with that. But yeah, I mean that's what I went to San Diego Comic-Con for just before it shut down.
See, there was the fort because you didn't make it easy on me. I'll have you know, your IMDb list alone has so many roles, and I wanted to.
You'd be scrolling.
Exactly. I wanted to get to everyone, and I saw Joker. I'm like, it's a tempting one, but Skizzo, I know a lot of people who really enjoy Days Gone, myself included. Arcane, I mean, come on, we'd be crazy if we didn't talk about one of
Netflix's. Man.
Exactly.
Arcane, you're not going to be disappointed. It's so good.
Oh, 100%. I'm already not disappointed. I'm not even finished with it, but I mean, it's on the front page of Netflix. All people are going to be talking about right now. And then, of course, I mean, we'd also be remiss if we didn't talk about Kid Flash. So that was kind of my rationale with that. But
sure. And a lot of people played Spider-Man for PS4. So and I played Scorpion.
Oh yeah.
I'm all over the place. We're sprinkling a little Jason Spisak all over the world, man.
I will say I did add Scorpion to your collage. That one
you
was
did.
That one was for me because I loved what you did with that. I loved
Breathing Spider-Man.
Yeah, also, by far the most fun boss fight, but that is a tangent for a different day because Jason, we got a lot to talk about, and I want to get to as much of it as possible. But I want to first start us off with Jason. You are massively well known, very successful in the industry. Like I said, Arcane, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about today. Front page of Netflix, one of the hugest animated films in recent memory. But I want to talk,
man.
Before we get to all that, I want to talk about how we got here. Was showbiz always the plan, or did something happen later in life that kind of brought us to where?
For me,
for you,
yeah. I mean, I was doing showbiz when I was. In 7th grade, I did my first play.
Wow.
So I was the wizard in the Wizard of Oz, and I was this short. They put this bald wig on me with these tufts of hair, and they cast me to play the wizard because I could do this big booming voice, which at that point probably sounded like big booming voice. and when I came out, the visual difference between this tiny person and this voice, would be the effect they wanted to achieve. And I've always been doing voices ever since I was a kid, and I moved to LA to be in stand-up and however I could get a job. So I'm a classically trained actor, so I did a lot of Shakespeare too. So when people look at my YouTube channel or in my Instagram, they'll see tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in its petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have been lighted fools the way to dusty death. You'll see Shakespeare.
And just rattle off some Shakespeare real quick.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I've always had the bug a bit, I think.
What would you think is your first big break, quote unquote? Because a lot of actors say, this show really got me on the map, or this movie really jump-started my career. Is there any of them come to mind?
Yeah, well, this is gonna sound strange, but I wasn't making my way in LA very successessly.
Really?
Stand-up comedy, I couldn't stay up that late. Like I'd end up on at 1:00 at the Comedy Store, and I'd be like, "We're gonna tell you a joke now," And I had an agent and a manager, but on camera wasn't really clicking for me. But I would always stick my head in the voiceover department at an agency called SBV and just do funny voices. But they never wanted to represent me at all. It was a bit of an uphill battle. And then I lost my agent, and I was really down in the dumps. And a casting director named Elaine Craig did me a favor and sent me 1 or 2 auditions when I didn't have an agent. and just kept clawing at it. Long story short, I got represented by Vox, which is my agent today. They just liked what I had going on in the room. And 2 weeks after they picked me up, I was on Nickelodeon in a show called Rocket Powered, which a lot of people will remember.
Yeah.
Watching this. Yeah. So I got to work for Klasky. Klasky Supo is the animation studio that made Rugrats. And Rocket Powered was kind of their follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
And Rugrats All Grown Up, those two. And it was wildly successful. So that was really my first gig. And the director was Charlie Adler. And that was kind of like my inauguration into voice acting. Was on Rocket Powered. I played two bad characters, Pie and Sputz. And we were always following behind Lars and making fun of Twister. So yeah, the Rocket Powered. And it's such a long time ago, it seems silly because I've had a lot of recent success, but that was my first taste of actually working in this business.
Like everybody knows Rugrats, of course, but I mean, Rocket Power gets so slept on. It was so good.
Oh, it was so good. Oh, no, it was great.
God.
Yeah. I've met a lot of people who I've talked to. They were like, "Oh, I love the family relationships in that show," and it was. I used to watch it with my dad, and I have a lot of people who say good things about Rocket Power, and it makes me happy because I enjoyed making it. 40 some episodes. I think I'm in 40 out of 52.
By far one of the best things Nickelodeon's ever made.
Yeah. Those were the days.
All right, guys. Well, I see a lot of people are jumping in the chat. Hi, if you guys, your first time experiencing Visioncon Live, first off, welcome. But the second thing is we are going to go throughout the show. And while we are doing that, you guys are free to put in the chat, either in the live chat, your viewers' comments and questions, or if you'd rather message Visioncon directly, your viewers' comments and questions, you are also able to do so there. Then at the very end, we will read those off live on air. But with that said, and guys, you'll have to forgive me. I'm still kind of getting over a cold. So if I ever...
That's okay. I can talk like that too. The both of us.
If I ever go like...
So... Want to read some audience questions?
No, Jason, how was it being done? Arcane! You'll know why. But the first...
You're like Bobcat Goldthwait. Yeah.
I'll take that.
I just remember watching Bobcat growing up, and he was just so good.
See, there you go. I'll cover it by saying, yeah, that's my Bobcat impression. Well, the first character...
Know who Bobcat Goldthwait is. Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to talk about 3 characters in particular of your long array of roles throughout the years. The first character, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about him. He is a superhero that is critical to the overall morale of the Young Justice team, yet still has a lot of complexity in his character as well. You know him. We all love him. Ladies and gentlemen, first character I want to talk about is the one, the only, Wally West, aka Kid Flash. Now, Jason, before we dive a little deep into Wally, just give us a brief overview of the character, maybe fun anecdotes involved in getting or playing the part, anything at all.
Sure. Actually, getting the part of Wally West, I was auditioning a fair bit in town at the time, and I had no idea that Wally was the character at first, because they kind of did code names. When they put out a round of auditions, they weren't actually letting you know what show it was for. There was a lot of stealth mode for the show itself. But in the callback, they showed me Phil Barassa's artwork, which is what we're looking at right now, this design for Wally. And as soon as I saw that, like it clicked for me. There was something about Wally's voice that I was already bringing, mind you. But once I saw him, that idea of the lovable douche who has a heart of gold, but thinks he's a player, but he's also a goof, and there's just so much wrapped up in that solidified when I saw this artwork. And I right before I went in the room for the callback with Jamie and Greg and Brandon, they gave me the artwork, and I was like, oh, okay, I get this. I know what this is. Okay, here we go. And it was great. The wall man is here. I went for it, and best audition of my life. I mean,
Really?
well, let's put it this way. I would say most fun, because Wally is such a fun character to play. Like when I read for Silco in Arcane, I just had this thing going on and it was awesome. But Wally's such a fun character to play. You know, and when I played Razor on Green Lantern, the animated series, he's full of rage, and it was a blast. The audition was a blast. But there's something about Wally that you just can't help but laugh and smile and just have a good time. It's because, of course, for season 1, where you get introduced to who Wally is in Young Justice, his character is just hilarious. Just hilarious. You know, it's hot in here. You certainly are.
He's just like, seeing him evolve throughout the series, and just like, he's the optimist for me personally. I always want to be. He's just, he's such a good time.
Yeah. He's a great hang. You know?
Yeah, to say the least.
Hey, inches above sizzling death, I'm entitled to speak my mind. You know, and he's just like plummeting to their death, and he's just still hitting on.
Oh my God.
It's just like, oh man.
And like, they take it goofy, but they don't go too far. Like he never goes too far. Like he's still like a relatable character.
Yeah, that's the thing about, I try to keep the characters grounded as much as I can, because if it's coming from a real place, you don't see the actor anymore. You just see the character.
Yeah.
And that's my most important job, is to disappear and allow who Wally is in the story to be front and center for every moment he's on screen and engaging with his friends and, you know, fighting evil.
You're not gonna that. I mean, he's like that bright light for the rest of the team, you know, even in the darkest times. But I mean, don't get me wrong, still has his plenty of dark moments and pivotal like character development. But I was curious to ask though, while playing Kid Flash, you know, was there ever a point where you kind of began to relate to him, maybe on a personal level?
Oh, constantly. Yeah. I mean, all my characters come from a place of understanding. Like, if I'm going to really hone in on a character, I have to know where they're coming from. I have to feel that, what it's like to be them. And, you know, you can't judge a character, even a character like the Joker. You have to understand their point of view as what motivates them through this world. And you can't stand outside it and judge it. You know, you have to just wear the skin. And yeah, Wally is so fun to be. It's actually one I really miss, being Wally. So, you know, it's a credit to the great writing and the great storytelling that I miss being in that suit just as much as he does, I imagine.
It is a credit to the writing because it is superb. However, I kind of want to, let's rewind a bit. You mentioned putting yourself in the perspective of the roles. Is that easier said than done? Coming from a person like you, for instance, for Wally, I can't imagine it was too hard to put you, a nice, sweet guy, into the mindset of a nice, sweet guy. But then when we look at characters,
you think I'm nice and sweet, huh?
Well,
I have you fooled, mister.
You got me. You duped me. I'm willing to bet it though. But when you get into a character like the Joker or Silco, which, you know, Silco we'll talk about later, but just, you know, for the case of the argument,
like the Joker,
you know, is that easier said than done?
I have a really incredible imagination. Since I was a kid, I played with Legos a lot. I would just go off to my room and build these worlds. I mean, the same way that kids are doing, making, you know, TikTok and Instagram videos now, where they're really using their imaginative muscles. And I got a lot of chance to do that as a kid. So that's what it is. It's believing a reality and being so convinced of its existence that you buy in completely. So for me, it's not hard. It's a joy and a pleasure to discover the things, to discover the places where it's different than my reality, for sure, right? Like, I don't have superpowers, you know. I can't relate to that on a literal level, but I can relate to what it's like to feel just a little bit cooler than other people and be like, yeah, you know, see how cool I am. And like, Wally comes from that place where he's the uncool cool person. He's sliding in Cadmus to a stop and like, running into things. And it is, I mean, I'm clumsy at times. So there's elements of me in every character I play. And when there isn't something direct in my life to draw on, not hard for me to use my imagination to fill in those holes. Authentically. That's the challenge, is you want it to be authentic. I mean, in Arcane, I play Silco, and he's got this life that is so different than mine. But it's just like putting on a pair of clothes. You just make them fit.
That's the way to look at it.
Yeah.
Well, the next character I kind of want to talk about, a bit more grounded in realism. I mean, if you want to call a zombie apocalypse game realistic. But
wait, we have to say goodbye to Wally.
We have to say bye, Wally. I'm sure we'll hear more about him during viewers' comments and questions. But the next character, and I kind of wanted to do it in a way of like morality. So right now we're in like the middle, leaning towards bad morality for this next character. The next character I want to talk about is everybody's favorite backstabber. Talk about Skizzo from Days Gone. So like we talked about with Wally.
There is an entire dedicated to killing Skizzo. And I had a discussion with this on a podcast called the Days Gone podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I had a discussion with the host about why everybody hates Skizzo. Like, some people have a really visceral reaction to his character and him, and I just hate him. And it makes me happy in a way, because I played him like, I know people like this guy. I know people who think they deserve more credit than they've gotten, who want the power even though they might not deserve it, who are always looking for their angle. They always play in some game. And I love John Garvin's writing. He's the writer and was the creator on Days Gone and Uncharted Golden Abyss, where I also played the bad guy in Bend Studios. Mm-hmm. And him and I have a very similar view of character. So when he was like, hey, will you come play this character for me? I'm like, what's he like? And so he started to describe Skizzo to me, and I thought, oh yeah, that sounds awesome. This urban thug who, if he was running the street gang, would be like second in command, but always gunning for the top. But he's just a little too weaselly to be the top, right? And you always feel that he's just one step below the rung he wants to be on, and it grates on him, and but he's human. So he makes friends with Deke, and you think that they actually bond a little bit, because they do, in the game. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody if they haven't played through, but anyway.
The thing about
I love Skizzo.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually like him too. Like, obviously, when the ending happens, it's
sure.
I can understand why people have an issue with him, and there's that whole compilation about people killing him. But I would like to set the argument that, yes, Skizzo, just part of that's just him. However, a lot of people, when you ask them, like, hey, hypothetically, if a zombie apocalypse happened, what would you do? And people are like, oh man, I'd be the total like hero, man. I'd kill 1 billion zombies and save everyone and be this massive hero. Would you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not realistic.
Exactly. Yeah. And as far as I'll give Days Gone the credit it deserves. It's a very realistic zombie story in its story anyway. And
they recreated all of Bend, Oregon, like the entire place in this virtual world that is beautiful. So if you haven't played, you get to go to Bend, Oregon without flying there. So it's pretty awesome.
But in a story, in a universe, or rather in a world where with all the zombie apocalypse happening in a world. When the zombie apocalypse happened and power is everything, I would argue Skizzo's reactions, while albeit some of it be a little off-put, a lot of things he does is at least understandable.
Yeah, you would encounter someone that self-interested when you're trying to survive and not die in a zombie apocalypse. Like, his attitudes and actions, it's obvious that he's the kind of person who would survive. like if you ever see a zombie apocalypse movie or a game, and there's a character in it that wouldn't have made it that far, you're just shaking your head as an audience member. You're going, they wouldn't have made it this far. There's no friggin' way. But Skizzo, you look at him and you go, yeah, I know he had to probably kill a lot of people and betray a lot of trust and, manipulate a lot of people just to be alive now because of the way the world is. And it makes sense that he could do that he's capable of it, that he could, be here still, not be dead. Yeah.
It's just
and it's a credit to John's writing.
Oh yeah, super next level. But kind of going along with Skizzo, I mean, the term snake in the grass perfectly characterizes him, to be fair. However, he still must have been a fun character to play. So did you have any favorite memories that kind of jump out at you about voicing the character at all?
Yeah, actually, he was a lot of fun to play, like the swagger, like the way he moves and he cocks his head and he rolls up on you and everything. Like, to me, I love the physicality of Skizzo when he's just in a room and he's got this way of holding his body, this wannabe thug kind of thing. It's to me, finding those things on the mocap stage, because I do a fair bit of motion capture, it's like being a kid again. It's a joy to just find out the way your character moves in a relation to somebody who's pretty straight up and down, like Deke, right? And when you're on the stage together and then they paint it with these digital characters, you can see that Skizzo just has his own way of, I'm going to say, like slithering through life in a way, right? And he's always cocking his head at you, never quite looking straight on. It's a delicious character to create. Believe me, I had so much fun with the physicality and the voice. And Skizzo's a real jerk. I'm trying to keep it clean for our young viewers out there, but he is a real jerk. And there was one time on stage where we were doing a scene, me and the actor who plays Deke, and we're on the mocap stage, and I just was such a jerk. And he just looks at me like he couldn't believe I was such a jerk. Yeah, and so in a way, getting to play that level of acerbic, acidic personality was a treat. Yeah.
Definitely made it more believable, that's for sure.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can be a dick.
We all can, though. Maybe not Skizzo level, though, but then again, we're not in the apocalypse, so.
Right.
All right, guys, well, we're at the about halfway point, so I did want to reiterate one more time that for those of you that are just tuning in or tuning in for the first time, first off, welcome. And secondly, a lot of you have already put in the live chat your viewers' comments and questions. You still have time to do so, or if you'd like to, if it's easier for you to message Visioncon directly your viewers' comments and questions, go ahead and do that, and at the very end, we'll read them off. So the last character... Visioncon. Well, the last character I want to talk about, everybody's been waiting for it. I know I have. It is a major character in a property that, I'll be honest, didn't really care much for up until Arcane came out because, quite frankly, I sucked at the game. Sure. So, what's up?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Scorpion.
No, God, no. Oh, no. I mean, we could... if we had time, but no, this character, I would argue, a lot more important for especially recently. But it's from a show that is from a video game that up until I started watching the show, I didn't much care for it just because I suck at the game. So didn't really choose to play it. But I have been captivated by this show. Yeah. The love it has given, the obvious passion that it has with the creators, and one character in particular. That is the next character we're going to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about the character on the opposite end of the spectrum from Wally West. Let's talk about the infamous Silco.
Do you ever wonder what it's like to drown? There's peace in water, like it's holding you, whispering in low tones to let it in, and every problem in the world will fade away. That monologue that starts episode 3 of Act 1 was the monologue that they used to audition.
Really?
Yeah. And from the moment I read it, I just locked on to this character. It was obvious and very on its face, beautiful story of a broken man, and I loved it. So yeah, we're into Act 2 now. So if you're watch it on Netflix, you can see Arcane on Netflix, and new episodes Saturdays, I believe.
Yep, Saturdays.
Yeah,
literally the first thing.
It will have you on the edge of your seat. It's so good.
Oh yeah, and yeah, you open up Netflix, the first thing you see.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it knocks Squid Game like off the top tier, and everything else, the viewership numbers on it and everything. It's a credit to how beautiful the artwork is. A French studio called Fortiche. They gave their heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears to the animation. And the writing is incredible. The music is created by gods of their craft. There is no second best in this show on a talent level. I mean, I'm working opposite Ella Purnell and Haley Steinfeld, and like this cast is incredible. So yeah, it's a great way to spend your afternoons or evenings and watch them again and again, because you'll find something new. There's so many treasures in Arcane. Well, it's a good story.
And the major thing about it, one of the many major things about it is, and it was something that I was a little not concerned, but a little nervous about, in the fact that I was a little worried that if you were not a fan of League of Legends, going in, you would not get as much out of it. And I'm happy to report that it's not at all the case.
Yeah, Silco isn't even in the game.
Is it?
My character is not a champion in League of Legends, because Arcane is like an origin story for a few of the champions, few of the more popular champions. So you don't have to know the games at all. You just have to be a fan of any kind of brilliantly done story and great lore. And Arcane delivers on that count. I never played League of Legends. I have a friend who plays on Twitch and stuff, but I was not into the game. Yeah. And the story took me off my feet immediately. So
good game, hard game, but the story of Arcane,
well, played by incredible experts all over.
100%. Yeah. But kind of back to where you mentioned, you're right. He is not a champion in League of Legends, but on my research, that is much to the dismay of many people in the League of Legends community.
Yeah,
I've seen
they're angling. People are angling for a Silco as a champion in the 100%. Game.
I saw polls. I saw tweets. People begging, some a bit more aggressive than others, wanting Silco in the game. So
it'll be really fascinating to see how he would operate on the battlefield. Because every champion has their own skill set, and Silco's weapon is his words and his ability to manipulate people. So credit to Riot Games, they can make a champion out of just about any lore.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited. And there's hundreds of champions. So I mean, 160 something, 152. But yeah, Silco, I hope he gets his chance in the ring.
And so obviously, I mean, when it even got announced, I mean, there was at least an air of this being something special, and the fact that Netflix advertised it so extensively, and just based on the visuals alone, in the trailer alone.
And the visuals, right? The trailer, it gives you a hint as to what you're in for.
Yeah.
And I've watched a lot of trailers. I've been part of a lot of series, and you can't watch the trailer for Arcane and not be like, "Wait, what was that?"
Yeah.
Oh, well, damn. Okay, I guess I'm tuning in for that. You can't just watch it and go, their visual style and their cinematic art direction, it just grabs you. It's so fun.
And so we had an idea that there was going to be an air of something special about it, but I would argue not nearly to the degree that it ended up being. Like, I'm seeing Arcane everywhere, to the point.
Yeah, a trailer can't do it justice.
Exactly. But like, I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it tweeted.
You're seeing it in my background. You're seeing the word Arcane.
people that I've known people that have never even watched anime before or anything like that. Not even really even a gamers watching this show and loving it. So I did want to ask, did you have
anybody who liked Lord of the Rings, even like those types of fans who love story, layers of lore, and yet action? It's well-rounded. What were you going to say?
Well, I just wanted to say, I mean, like I said, there was an air of this being something special, but did you have any idea that either A, Arcane would be as successful as it was, and B, that Silco himself would be as beloved as he is?
I had the advantage of having read the entire season and having performed it. And Christian Linky, who is one of the creators along with Alex Yee, they would show me bits and pieces along the way as we were working on it. And so I got to see some of the artwork, and I got to see some of the rough art direction, and then get to see it filled in. And as I watched their creative process and was part of their, creative process, I knew it was special. Like I told them when we were walking across Riot's campus, I was like, do you guys know how awesome this is? Because I've been in a lot of stuff, and I'm just telling you, I know you've never made any animated stuff before besides like, music videos, which are amazing. But do you have any idea how awesome this really is going to be? And I think they might have thought I was full of crap or full of myself, or I don't know what. But I genuinely thought it was going to be special. Well, League of Legends is an international success. It is, and I've listened to the German and the French versions of Silco, and Riot Games has paid attention to every element internationally as well. When you have that behind your show, it can't help but be a success. I thought it was inevitably something that everyone would remember. Yeah, I had a sneaking suspicion.
I mean, it's beautifully animated, don't get me wrong. I think where it really shines is the story and the characters.
Oh yeah. They spent a very long time on the pilot itself. I think was 3 or 4 years.
That's crazy.
Of workshopping this pilot in-house and getting talent attached and then sorted out. Maybe that's not the right person for this voice. And they took an insane amount of time in this business relative to the way that most things are created to get that part right. And that was just the pilot, just the thing that they wanted to show the rest of Riot to prove that this was worth doing.
This was something.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on,
they spared no expense.
Oh yeah, for sure they didn't. But hey, it all worked out. But before we move on, I did want to ask, towards the beginning, I mentioned that you've played cheerful, optimistic heroes and foreboding villains throughout your entire career, and you do a great job at it. But I wanted to
great job.
Well, I wanted to say something else, but I forgot we had younger listeners in the audience.
Right.
But I did want to ask, if you had to choose, do you prefer playing the chipper good guys or the foreboding bad guys?
I like the villains. I mean, I play Hal Jordan on DC Superhero Girls, I'm Hal Jordan. Same. A character like the Joker or Silco or even Silico, which I played on the new Powerpuff Girls. There's something about every villain that is different, and they have their own point of view on their relationship to the hero, or they are the hero in their own story. That's how you have to play a villain. And it's so much fun. It's really fun to play the baddies. I got to play Red Hood in a Lego Batman movie. So I got to play Jason Todd.
Yeah.
And, for the first half of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Go out, rent it, and watch it. I love the Lego movies, by the way. He's like, well, if it isn't the Bat family, like he's this young little upstart villain. It's adorable. And no matter how I end up with a villain in my lap, it's like a Christmas card. I just can't wait to open it. It's like a bag of candy. Something's going to be in there. It's going to be new and different.
Hey, villain. It's good to be bad.
It's good to be bad. I'm also looking for Harley. Have you seen her? No.
The range alone you have is just it never ceases to amaze. Like when I was doing research, I was like seeing all these
to the grind.
And I've seen all these different roles. I'm like, there's no way. Like IMDb must have got it wrong. So I go to behind the voice actors, and sure enough, all these characters are voiced by the same guy. I'm like,
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when I look back at it. I mean, I've always had a good range, but you could have a great range in this business and still get pigeonholed. I know a lot of really talented actors who end up playing a lot of the same things. So I've been very fortunate that casting directors see me as a knife of many shapes, that I can help them solve their problem. I am the tool in their bag that they can be like, just stick Jason on this and he'll figure it out. Like Chum Bucket. Her Saint, you've played Mad Max, and Chum Bucket is hopping around.
That was one of the big ones that I was like, there's no
Mad Max.
way. Because I played Mad Max and I remembered Chum Bucket. And I was like, there's no way.
Praise me.
Oh, blown my mind.
A lot of people spend a lot of time with Mad Max, and if they play the game and I'm in person with them and I do that and I do the Hunchback, they just lose their brain because they can't compute. Because Mad Max, you spend a lot of time inside the game, and Chum Bucket's like a voice that's always there. And all of a sudden they're like, am I dreaming? This is really weird. Go away. So yeah, I loved Chum Bucket a lot. I had to wear a salad strainer on my back to simulate the hump. Yeah, so I did the motion capture for Chum Bucket also. So I was the motion capture actor and the voice and facial capture. And so I was all hunched over like this in my mocap suit, and I would one arm swing into Max's car.
Really?
And so I grab it because he only has one good arm. If you look at the character. And in order to make sure that my back cleared whatever the construction was of the car that you had at the time, because you could build your car and make different stuff. They had me wear this salad strainer that they painted black on my back, and so that if it bumped into something, I knew I couldn't do that in the game. Yeah, it's fun. I love playing whatever character, and Chum Bucket's he's a good guy.
Yeah, I mean, I 100%ed Mad Max.
Kinky D.
I had a lot of exposure to Chum Bucket, and it was Chum Bucket and then the Joker that I saw on your IMDb page, where I was like, all right, there's no way. Like, IMDb must have it wrong, so that's when I went to behind the voice actors. Sure enough.
Yeah, but I just hacked IMDb and put myself in as the Joker. I'm like, yeah, Mark Hamill was busy. Hold on a second. Yeah.
But there's been time. Well, I say time. So it was one singular time.
Sure.
IMDb had it wrong, and that was before I. So a little behind the scenes, guys. But I usually send an outline to the guests that I interview, just so they have some semblance about what we're likely going to talk about. But I didn't always do that. So, and I won't divulge who this person was. That I got.
They had a credit.
Though if you go into the past YouTube videos, you'll be able to find it eventually. But I started talking about this character, and he's like, "This sounds cool, but that wasn't me."
Right, that's funny. Yeah, I can relate to that, because some people put stuff on IMDb having heard it, and they just add you because some of that can be fan submitted and stuff. Yeah. But I can always prove I'm the Joker because I can do the laugh from Batman Hush.
Knocked it. I wasn't gonna ask, but I was hoping you would. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna take a step away from voice acting and mocap acting, and we're gonna
step away
something a little different. Now, in addition to being a very accomplished voice actor, you are also a very accomplished on-screen actor, and
I don't know about accomplished.
Well, agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Black Chalk Productions.
So Black Chalk is a company that I started with a few friends of mine to make films, feature films. And we have a documentary that we did, and then we did this full-length sci-fi feature called Intersect. And Intersect was on iTunes and Hulu, top 10 in sci-fi for weeks at a time. So the movie... if you go on Hulu now, you can watch Intersect. It's a sci-fi feature that's kind of a time travel movie. It's kind of like Primer meets Memento, and I play the lead character in that one. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's our documentary, The Unbelievers. We did that before we did the feature. Yeah, and that's Intersect. So if you go to Hulu, that basically, that's the website for the film Intersect. And I've done a couple of features here and there, but it's mostly been voiceover work because I don't like to sit in the makeup chair.
And for our
Who wants to sit in the makeup chair?
For our audio only listeners, we are showing the websites of Jason's production company called Black Chalk Productions. Yeah. The website.
Sure. It's not mine. It's my friends.
Gus friends. Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, the three of us together.
The website is www.blackchalkproductions.com.
Right, and intersectthemovie.com is the website, and it's on Hulu now. You can stream it. You can watch it on, I think, Amazon, Hulu, still on iTunes. There's a bunch of places that it's on. Yeah, Prime Video. Yeah, it's the real deal. It's a sci-fi movie. We got ourselves a sci-fi classic there.
I just recently got the no ad version of Hulu, so now I know what to use it for.
Thinking person's movie. It's like a puzzle movie. So if you like puzzle movies, it's not straight up horror and it's not straight up sci-fi. It's funny. We actually wrote the script and shot most of the film before Lovecraft was a big deal.
Really?
So this has H.P. Lovecraft undertones written all over it. So if you're an H.P. Lovecraft fan, you'll really like Intersect. So it's more like a puzzle movie.
You said it's not too much horror?
No.
Awesome, because I'm a big baby when it comes to horror.
Yeah, I don't watch horror either.
Alrighty, guys.
I have too much the feels. I can't watch horror. I feel like, oh no, what's happening to these poor people? Yeah.
And also, if it's too scary, I end up sleeping with my light on for a few days. But that's just me.
At least you have lights.
I've got that link as well as plenty of others in the live chat if you're watching this live on Facebook or you're watching this later on YouTube. It's going to be down there in the description box below, which on that note, if you guys have not already, message Visioncon directly your viewers, comments, and questions, or put it in the live chat. Now is your final chance to do so because, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the plug zone. Jason Spisak, now is your opportunity to plug, promote, advertise, whatever verb you want to use. Anything you want.
Me?
Yeah, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, I'm on Instagram at Jason Spisak, JASONSPISAK. I have Intersect, which is that sci-fi movie you just showed there. Intersect is on Hulu and a bunch of other places, so watch that if you want to see me. I play the lead, Ryan. It's a puzzle movie. I am in Arcane, which you probably don't need to plug at this point because the entire world is going to watch Arcane, and I play Silco. What else can I plug? I mean, I wrote a children's book called Laszlo Llama, LAZLOLLAMA. And there's two books, Laszlo Llama and Laszlo's handbook, Happiness Handbook. And I wrote them when my children were younger to kind of give them just some like fables, like parables.
Yeah, that's
that were just from scratch. So that's kind of fun. And watch the new season of Young Justice, Phantoms. Because I also play Forager. You are part of Forager's hive. So, yeah.
All right, and then we've got those links plus many more. Like I said, guys, watching this live on Facebook, going to be in the live chat, or if you're watching this later on YouTube or listening to it later on podcast streaming services, it's going to be down there in the description box below, guys. And with that, we're going out of the plug zone, going to our final segment, viewers, comments, and questions. So,
I love the fans. I want them to ask me questions.
Like I usually do, guys, just going to do about 50-50, some from the live chat, some from the messenger. So I'll go ahead and get it open.
Ask away, peoples.
All right.
What do you want to know? This is an Ask Me Anything, hosted by, not me.
Hosted by Zach Wilson.
Hosted by Zach Wilson.
So we're going to go first to Chris, who said, hey, Jason, what was it like,
Chris?
And I'm going to butcher this name, Lux Bontori in Star Wars The Clone Wars?
Yeah, Lux Bonterry was Ahsoka's boyfriend, but not really, because they George Lucas wouldn't allow Jedis to fall in love at the time. So, yeah, I played Lux. I played Lux on Star Wars Clone Wars. Ahsoka, you're ruining my plans. This is a holotrace device. It will lead us straight to Count Dooku. So, yeah, I played Lux Bonteri, who was the son of a senator and also kind of helped start the rebellion on Onderon. And what was it like playing him? Insanely awesome, because anytime you get to be on anything Star Wars, I am a huge Star Wars fan. And I should have brought that to the island with me in the beginning of the show. And there were things during the creation of Clone Wars that when they're happening and you're a voice actor and you're like, okay, there's this lightsaber battle, or you're geeking out so hard, you're trying to just keep your head on straight and do your job. There was a time that Dave Filoni, who is responsible for The Mandalorian, he's one of the creators on that and Rebels. Dave was obviously the engine behind Clone Wars as well. Dave was giving us backstory of what was happening on the show, because Clone Wars was very political at times. So there was a lot of backstory. And he's just talking, and then all of a sudden he goes, and George says that this, and then my brain went, uh-oh, he's talking about George Lucas. And then everything else after that was like this sort of low hum, like for like 90 seconds. So geeking out pretty hard. I love Star Wars Clone Wars, and I would love to be on anything else that Dave makes, because he's a good storyteller.
All right, so Caroline tuned in and said,
hello, Caroline.
With Oswald, the character can be smooth and suave, sure, but he can also be this huge jerk to you, but in a weird way that you can't hate him, LOL. How the heck did you pull off that charming pretender to the throne who you kind of want to root for because of what happened to his parents?
Right, so she's referring to Oswald Cobblepot. I played the Penguin in Telltale Games Batman. So Telltale Games, which is no longer around as a company, made some really cool games, Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. They brought comics to life. And Telltale Games Batman, I played one of the baddies. I played Oz. What was his nickname? Oswald Cobblepot. How did I pull it off? Well, just like any other character I play, Oz is the hero of his own story. He's not a bad guy. He just had these circumstances and things happen to him, and he has things that he desperately wants, whether it's revenge or the city to kind of be restarted, to start over, level Wayne Enterprises, and just let history go back to where the Cobblepots had the power. And he is the hero of his own story. And if you play the person like the hero of their own story, you don't get a lot of fakery villainy. What you get is charm. You get charm and manipulation and everything else. Oswald, he's, oh, Bruce, you're why we can't have nice things. Like, he's so debonair. And it was beautiful to see Penguin portrayed as a hot guy. I was like, yes, this is what needs to happen.
There we go.
Yeah. Great costume design.
I'd say he wasn't bad looking in the Gotham live action series either, but
no, that's true, right? And these were similar in timing. I think they were being created.
Were they really?
Gotham came first. Gotham came first, but then this was.
Now that I think about it, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people in the chat are fans of Intersect.
Let's fire the moderator.
A lot of the fans in the chat are actually fans of Intersect too. One person said it's more trippy than spooky.
It is trippy. Yeah, it's a puzzle movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then speaking of Joker, one person said Joker's commentary when Batman was fighting Clayface was hilarious.
Oh, a lot of that was improv.
Was it really?
Yeah. So the producer and Wes Gleason, the voice director, they were all in the room, and this scene comes up in Batman Hush, which if you haven't seen Batman Hush, go right out and watch it. It's an incredible retelling of the graphic novel by Ernie. I'm trying to remember Ernie's last name. He's the writer. Anyway, the scene in the prison, Joker's not on screen for all of it. He comes and goes on screen, and Batman is fighting Clayface for his life, and Joker's just off screen making these random Joker puns. And there was like nothing there in the script during the fight. And I said, guys, the Joker is standing right there. He's going to be throwing these one-liners at Batman while Batman's getting his butt handed to him. This has to, let me do some stuff. So they let me riff on Batman getting his fighting play face. And so, yeah, a lot of that was improvised. So when you see him on screen, it's not. But when he's off screen, it's improv.
Okay. All right. Well, Gabrielle tuned in.
Yeah.
Said, question for Jason. Jason, have you been watching Young Justice Phantoms? And if so, what do you think about the current season so far?
First of all, it's brilliant. Anything that Greg Wiseman, Brandon Vietti, anything that they create is going to be well written and fun to watch.
Young Justice Phantoms? Nope. Sorry.
Yeah. So I have, off and on, I'm very, very busy right now with publicity for Arcane. So I've only seen 2 episodes of the first arc of the season. And I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody because I can't talk about a show that's a lot of people haven't seen yet and also hasn't completely aired. The season's not over. But I can tell you what, you're going to love Phantoms. They really do a great job of telling long form stories, long form narrative, as they specialize at it. And, hey, look, any story arc that has Artemis in it, I love. So how can I not like the first part of Phantoms? It's all about Artemis, man.
Bit of a bias, sure.
Stephanie.
All right. So Ryan tuned in and said,
yeah,
are there any characters that you voiced throughout the years that you wish had more of a spotlight?
All of them.
Fair enough. Any in particular?
What can I say? No, to be honest, a lot of characters I voice are serving their story, right? And the way I approach building a character is that my job is to help the producer tell their story, not be like, Jason did this cool voice. It's not that. It's about me serving the telling of this tale. So I think every character that ends up in the spotlight is there appropriately. And every character that isn't fades into the shadows and just helps the story be complete. I mean, I played Bart's in Final Fantasy, so a lot of people do talk about him, but he can take on the voice of any other hero. It's like his power, and he's a lot of fun. I played Mega Man for just a brief time. We were talking about that before this.
Crazy.
I played did a handful of anime, like the Transformers anime, Robots in Disguise. I played the young kid, the human in that series. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I've done, but I think everybody gets their due. If the fans are excited about a character, then it rises to the top. And if they're just there to tell the story, then they did their job. And I'm okay with it.
Before we go on, full disclosure, on the first draft of you received the second draft, which was your first draft for that collage before you're like, oh, we got to put in Silco.
Right. Yeah,
but the very first draft actually had Bart's in it because
that's right, yeah.
Final Fantasy is my favorite series of all time. But I was thinking before I sent it to you, I was like, I love Final Fantasy, but this is meant to be a promotional tool, and Scorpion, Silco, and would probably serve it better. But I just wanted to put that out there. Did amazing job, in my opinion.
That's why I mentioned him, because I think a lot of people really spend a lot of time hearing Bart's voice in Final Fantasy and the different iterations of Bart's, the different types of, the way they always redo the game and change things up on you.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So of all the characters I've played, I really also like Razor from Green Lantern, the animated series. So if you haven't seen Green Lantern, the animated series, look it up. I don't know where you can watch it right now, actually. But Green Lantern, the animated series, was out right around the same time as Young Justice and Clone Wars. And I play Razor, a Red Lantern who has a bit of a crisis of faith regarding the Red Lantern Corps. and he's not in the comics either, so I got to create him from whole cloth.
Nice.
It's a really brilliant story. If you haven't seen Green Lantern the animated series, go watch right now.
You heard it here first. All right, we have time for 2 more. The next one's coming from Charlotte, who said, when you're not working, what are some hobbies you like to do?
I like to build things like houses, and
Really?
I'm handy. So yeah, over the pandemic, I designed a house from scratch and built it from scratch for a friend of mine and his daughter. He had lost his house, and so I helped him out. And yeah, it's fully solar powered, off grid. I put in the solar. I designed the house from scratch. I learned about building physics. Yeah, I like architecture. I like to create things, and I like to make the world a better place. So whatever serves that.
Who would ever thought Silco's voice actor is probably one of the greatest people on the planet?
No, there are far greater people than me. I do my job in my zone.
Well, last question we got is from Aaron, who said, would Kid Flash get along with Sonic the Hedgehog?
Oh yeah, I hate Roger Smith. Oh, I'm sorry. What were we talking about?
Yeah.
Me and Roger actually text each other and talk on the phone, and we're buddies.
Really?
I think, yeah, I actually do think Kid Flash and Sonic would have a good time together. I think they'd be pranking each other and trying to get one up on each other, you know. Look at me. No, look at me. I think it'd be a blast. I'd love to see a crossover.
Similar
me
vibes.
And Roger. Yeah, me and Roger would have a blast. Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that's about the time we got. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 74 of Visioncon Live. Thank you so much for watching. Before we tune out, though, Jason, any final thoughts to leave us on? Sage-like wisdom. Anything at all?
You are who you need to be at the moment you are it. So want nothing more from yourself than who you are, and you will become everything you need to be right when you need to be it. So keep doing your thing, people. Never give up.
Truly could not have said it better myself. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 74 of Visioncon Live. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm your host, Zach Wilson, but much more importantly, this has been my very special guest, Jason Spisak. Make sure to check out all the links down in the description box below. And until next time, guys, always remember that life's better when you have friends to share it with.